You're on your own land. You've got your range set up, proper backstop, safe distance, everything by the book. You've been shooting here for years. And then, blue and red lights flash at the end of your driveway. A neighbor called 911, reported shots fired, and now 2 officers are walking toward you, and you're still holding a rifle. What do you say? Because in the next 60 seconds, what comes out of your mouth is going to determine whether this ends with the officers waving goodbye and leaving, or whether it ends with your firearms seized, your name in a police report, and possibly a lawyer's phone ringing at midnight. I'm going to give you the exact script, word for word, the psychology behind it, the law behind it, and how to make sure this never becomes a problem in the first place. But I need you to stay with me, because this is not a simple topic, and the people who get hurt are the ones who thought it was. And I want to be very clear about something right out of the gate. Shooting on your own private property is legal in most of this country. There is no debate about that. But legal and problem-free are 2 completely different things, and the gap between those 2 words is exactly where people lose their firearms, their clean record, and sometimes their freedom. Today, we are covering 3 things: the psychology of why neighbor disputes escalate to 911 calls and why that matters legally, the exact professional interaction script for when officers arrive at your property, and the long-term legal protection strategy that most gun owners never think about until it's too late. This is the stuff that stays locked in law offices. I'm putting it out here because you deserve to know it before you need it. Let's go. Before we get to what you say to the officer, I want you to understand something that most gun owners skip entirely. Why does the neighbor call the police in the first place? Because understanding that psychology is actually your first line of legal defense. Here's the reality. When your neighbor hears gunfire, even if you are completely legal, completely safe, completely responsible, their brain does not process it as, my neighbor is exercising a constitutional right. Their brain processes it as a threat. It's a primal reaction. Loud, unexpected sounds equal danger. And the fastest way to eliminate that feeling of danger is to call 911 and hand the problem to someone else. Now, here's why this matters to you legally. There is a fundamental difference between a nuisance complaint and a safety violation report. A nuisance complaint, the noise is bothering me, that's a civil matter. A safety violation, shots fired, I think someone's in danger, that is a criminal call. And how officers respond to your property, what authority they have when they arrive, and what legal exposure you have, all of that changes depending on which category the call falls into. Most neighbor gunfire calls are nuisance calls dressed up as safety calls. The neighbor says shots fired, not because they believe someone is being shot, but because that language gets a faster police response. And officers know this. Experienced officers respond to these calls regularly, which is why, if you handle the encounter correctly, most of these situations resolve in under 10 minutes with 0 legal consequence. The key word there is correctly. Here's another thing most people don't think about. Your demeanor before the officers reach you matters. If they pull up and you're standing there agitated, gesturing, firearms still in hand, you've already started this encounter badly. We are going to talk about the exact setup, physical, verbal, and psychological, that makes this encounter go smoothly before a single word is spoken. Let me ask you something. Right now, not after this video, right now, do you know your county's zoning ordinance on discharge of firearms on private property? Do you know how many feet from a dwelling structure you're required to be? Do you know whether your state has a preemption law that prevents your county from being more restrictive than state law allows? If any of those were a no or I think so, that is your homework. And I mean that seriously, not general homework, specific to your county, your parcel, your setup. Here's why this matters. It's not just about being legal. It's about being able to prove you're legal in real time, under stress, in front of an officer who has a legal obligation to investigate. Let me give you the 3 things you should have ready. I call this your compliance folder. It can be physical or digital. Either way, you need it. First, distance documentation. Know the legal setback requirements from dwellings and property lines in your jurisdiction. Take actual measurements. Have them written down or photographed. If an officer asks you to demonstrate your setup is safe, you show him the measurements. That is evidence of compliance, not just your word. Second, state preemption law printout. Many states have firearms preemption laws, meaning local governments cannot impose stricter regulations than state law allows for discharge of firearms. If your state has this, have the statute, not the summary, the actual statute. You can print it from your legislature's official website. Keep it in your range bag. Third, your carry or ownership documentation. If you have a carry permit, know where it is. If the firearm is registered in a state that requires registration, have that documentation accessible, not in the glove box of a car 50 yards away, on your person or immediately at hand. Now here's what I want you to comment below. Tell me your state. Tell me whether your county has a minimum distance ordinance on discharge of firearms on private property. Yes, no, or don't know. Because I am building a full state-by-state discharge on private property rights breakdown video based on what you all tell me. That video happens because of your comment. All right, this is what you came for. The officers are pulling up. Before they get out of the car, here is what you do physically. Set down your firearm. Not hide it, not put it in a case. Set it down visibly in a safe direction, action open if possible, and step away from it slightly. Then stand with your hands visible, arms slightly out, calm posture. You are demonstrating visually, before anyone speaks, that you are in control of the situation and you are not a threat. This is what I call the show before tell approach. You are communicating safety with your body before you say a single word. Experienced officers notice this. It immediately changes the tone of the encounter. Now they approach. Here is your opening statement. Officer, I want to make this easy for you. I'm the property owner here. I was doing some target shooting. I've been doing it on this land for years. I'm fully within my legal setback requirements, and I have documentation of my range setup if you'd like to see it. How can I help you? Let me break that down, because every word is intentional. When you say, I want to make this easy for you, you are immediately establishing that you are cooperative, not defensive, not adversarial. This phrase psychologically repositions the entire encounter. When you say, I'm the property owner, you are asserting your legal standing without being combative about it. Ownership matters here. This is not a public space. When you say, I was doing some target shooting, that's factual, simple, and you are volunteering no additional information. When you say, I've been doing it on this land for years, you are establishing pattern and normalcy. You are not a threat. You are a routine. When you say, I have documentation, this is your power move. Most people don't have documentation. You do. That alone changes how an officer evaluates the situation. And when you say, how can I help you, you are ending on deference. You are inviting dialogue rather than creating confrontation. Now the officer is going to ask you something, probably one of three things. If they ask what kind of firearm of that, you answer factually. Type, caliber if asked, nothing more. Do not explain the firearm's capabilities, modifications, magazine capacity, or anything else that was not specifically asked. Short, factual answers only. If they ask, do you have a permit for that? You say, yes, officer, I have my carry permit right here. Or, if a permit is not required, this firearm is on my own private property. A permit is not required for possession here under state law, but I'm happy to show you my ownership documentation. If they ask, can I see your setup? You say, absolutely. Walk them to your range, show them your backstop, show them your compliance folder. This is your moment to demonstrate, not just assert, that you are legal and responsible. And at any point they ask you something you don't know the answer to, you say, I want to give you accurate information. Can I pull up the specific statute? That is the professional interaction script. Now I need to talk about something that has changed significantly in the last few years. And this is the part most gun rights videos skip entirely. Red flag laws, extreme risk protection orders. As of 2026, the majority of states have some form of ERPO statute on the books, and here is what you need to understand about how they interact with neighbor disputes. An ERPO can be triggered by a neighbor. In most states, only law enforcement or family members can formally petition, but the neighbor can be the one who calls law enforcement and provides the information that starts the process. And here's the part that catches people off guard. In many states, an ERPO can be issued before you've been convicted of anything, before you've even been charged with anything, based on a petition alleging you pose a risk. Now, does shooting legally on your own private property constitute grounds for an ERPO? In most circumstances, no. Legal, responsible firearms use is not evidence of extreme risk. But here is the critical part. If a neighbor has called 911 on you 3 times, and each time officers are documenting the call, and then that neighbor goes and files an ERPO petition, those call records become part of the paper trail used to support that petition. This is why documentation of your responsible conduct is not optional. It is your legal shield. Every range day, note the date, time, duration, and the fact that you followed all safety protocols. If you have a security camera covering your range area, that footage is evidence of responsible conduct, not evidence against you, evidence for you. And if you are ever served with an ERPO, do not respond to it yourself. Do not go to that hearing without an attorney. This is not a situation where you explain yourself to a judge and everything works out. This is a legal proceeding with real consequences. Get a Second Amendment-focused attorney before that hearing. Let's talk about the point where a neighbor stops being an annoyed neighbor and starts being someone who is weaponizing the legal system against you. Because there is a line, and I want you to know exactly where it is. 1 or 2 911 calls because they heard shooting and were startled, that's a neighbor being a neighbor. Annoying, possibly uninformed, but not actionable. Repeated calls where nothing illegal is found each time over weeks or months, where the pattern is clearly designed to harass you into stopping a legal activity, that can cross into actionable harassment territory in many jurisdictions. Here's what you need to make that case. First, a log. Every single call. Date, time, officers who responded, outcome. Every time. Don't rely on your memory. Create a written record immediately after each incident. Second, officer body camera footage. In most jurisdictions, you can request this through a public records request. Get it. Because if a pattern of unfounded calls is documented and you later bring a harassment claim, that footage showing officer after officer finding no violation is powerful evidence. Third, a letter. Not from you. From your attorney, a formally written letter to the neighbor documenting the pattern, noting that the activity is entirely lawful, and stating that continued false reporting may expose them to civil liability. You would be surprised how quickly that changes behavior. Is suing a neighbor worth it? Often, no, from a pure cost-benefit standpoint. But a letter from a lawyer? That's a few $100s, and it frequently solves the problem permanently. Have you dealt with a repeat caller neighbor? Drop it in the comments right now. Tell me what happened and how you handled it, because these real stories are exactly what helps this community. I want to close with something that most gun rights content never talks about, because everything I've given you so far is reactive. What to say when, how to document, how to respond. But the smartest gun owners I've ever represented, they almost never needed that script, because they played the long game. Step 1. Proactive neighbor communication. I know some of you just cringed. Hear me out. Before your next range day, especially if you have new neighbors, a simple knock on the door. Hey, I want to let you know I do some target shooting on my property on weekend mornings. I keep it to reasonable hours. If the sound is ever a problem, let me know directly. That sentence, that 30-second conversation, prevents 90% of the 911 calls I've described in this video. People call the police when they feel out of control. You give them a direct line of communication to you, and suddenly they feel in control. The police call becomes unnecessary. Step 2. Consider acoustic mitigation as a goodwill gesture. Suppressors, where legally permitted, are not just a tactical accessory, they are a genuine noise reduction tool that makes you a better neighbor. Acoustic barriers, berms, and range design that channels sound away from neighboring properties, these are investments in your ability to keep shooting without interference. I'm not saying you have any legal obligation to do this. You don't. But you have a very practical interest in doing it, because every year you shoot without a neighbor complaint is a year you're not in a legal dispute. Step 3. Get connected to a Second Amendment legal network now, not when you need it. Now, there are organizations that provide legal defense coverage for lawful gun owners. For a few dollars a month, you have an attorney a phone call away the moment that officer pulls into your driveway. I'm not sponsored by any of them. I'm telling you this because I've seen what happens when people try to navigate these encounters without representation. The law is complex, the stakes are real, and having a phone number in your pocket that connects you to a lawyer at 11 p.m. changes everything about how you handle that situation. Know the number. Store it in your phone tonight. Here's what I need you to take away from this video. Being legal is not enough. Being smart, prepared, and documented, that's what actually protects you. Your neighbor's discomfort does not override your constitutional rights, but your constitutional rights don't enforce themselves. You have to know them. You have to be able to demonstrate compliance in real time, and you have to have the documentation and legal support structure in place before the blue lights show up in your driveway. The people who lose in these situations aren't bad people. They're not criminals. They're prepared gun owners who were completely unprepared for the legal encounter. Don't be that person. Now, here's what I need you to take away from this video. Drop your state and your county in the comments. Tell me whether you know your local discharge ordinance. Yes, no, or never even thought about it. Because I am building a full state-by-state private property shooting rights breakdown, and your comment tells me exactly which state to cover next. That video exists because of this community. Share this video with one person who shoots on private property, not for the view count, because this information could be the difference between that person keeping their firearms and losing them over an encounter they didn't know how to handle. And subscribe and turn on notifications, because every video on this channel is built around one question. What does a legally armed person actually need to know to protect themselves? No filler, no politics, just law. I'll see you in the next one. Stay prepared, stay documented, stay protected.